Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging headfirst into a source that, well, it basically defines an entire literary and philosophical concept.
It really does.
We're exploring a fascinating excerpt from Franz Kafka's seminal work, The Trial.
A classic.
And our mission is to extract the crucial insights that illuminate what it means to be caught in a truly inscrutable system. You know, a situation so profound, we now just call it Kafkaesque.
That's the term, yeah.
So get ready for some deeply unsettling yet incredibly relevant observations about power, individual agency, and, well, the very nature of justice.
Indeed, this deep dive offers a unique and, frankly, timeless lens into not just one character's struggle, but also into the strange power dynamics and the very human reactions that emerge when an individual faces this kind of overwhelming, opaque force.
Right.
We'll be looking at the immediate, bewildering impact of this bizarre situation, the diverse and often contradictory forms of help that are offered up.
And the surprising personal entanglements that arise as our main character tries to navigate this profoundly illogical world.
And maybe for those unfamiliar, a Kafkaesque situation, it describes this kind of nightmarish, illogical, often menacing bureaucracy, where an individual feels powerless, maybe even guilty, but without knowing why.
Often without even knowing the charge against them.
Exactly. It's a world completely turned upside down.
So let's unpack this unsettling narrative. We open on our main character, a man known simply as K.
Just K.
He's extremely busy at work, right before the post is due, very focused. And his intense focus is abruptly shattered by the frantic arrival of his Uncle Karl.
Uncle Karl.
Now, K had apparently been dreading this visit for about a month. He even goes so far as to call his uncle the ghost from the country.
Which tells you a lot right there.
It really does. It immediately tells us about their strained dynamic, doesn't it? Kay clearly views him as this unwelcome intrusion.
Well, and what immediately strikes me about Uncle Karl is his whole persona. He's described as a small landowner, always seems to be in a tearing hurry, completely obsessed with maximizing his one-day visit to the capital.
Gotta get it all done.
He feels he must do everything he's planned, not miss any chance. And crucially, Kay is his former ward.
Ah, okay.
So that indicates a strong familial obligation, maybe a certain expectation of deference from Kay.
Right.
And Uncle Karl immediately demands a private word, saying, "It's necessary for my peace of mind."
His peace of mind.
Exactly. That line perfectly encapsulates his self-centered agitation right from the get-go. This isn't just concern for Kay. It's his peace of mind he's worried about.
And once they're finally alone, after Kay sends his messengers out, Uncle Karl wastes absolutely no time. He actually sits on Kay's desk.
He kind of moves right in.
Stuffing documents under him to get comfortable. It's a very territorial sort of gesture. And then he drops the bombshell. "Who's this I hear, Joseph?"
But Kay doesn't answer.
Now, he stays silent. He almost seems, I don't know, detached, caught in what the text describes as a pleasant weariness, even though he clearly knows what's coming.
Right, he must know.
He's just looking out the window while his uncle is there, like arms in the air with this palpable agitation. That contrast is so stark.
Oh, it's an incredibly telling moment.
Yeah.
It highlights this fundamental disconnect between them, doesn't it? Kay's apparent indifference or weariness against his uncle's panic.
It sets the stage.
It really does. It sets the stage for their completely differing approaches to this mysterious trial. One is trying to process, maybe internalize the absurdity of it all.
Well, the other is just reacting with pure emotion.
Yeah, and a desperate sense of urgency. This immediately prompts the question, in the face of such an ungraspable threat, which reaction is more rational? Or maybe even more effective?
Is Kay's calm a sign of composure, or is it like a dangerous, almost catatonic denial?
That's a fascinating point. What specifically do you think Kay's pleasant weariness reveals about his state of mind versus Uncle Karl's visceral panic? Could his calmness be a psychological defense mechanism against something so overwhelming?
It feels like it could be.
Absolutely. Kay's weariness could definitely be seen as a form of intellectual and emotional exhaustion from just grappling with the inexplicable. Unlike his uncle, who reacts with a more conventional, outward display of distress.
Kay seems to retreat inward.
Exactly. And this isn't just a plot detail. It's a profound insight into how individuals can internalize overwhelming anxiety. His uncle views it as dangerous, right? A sign of losing his grip.
Yeah, he thinks Kay's lost it.
But it might just be Kay's subconscious trying to cope with an entirely new paradigm of threat, one that just doesn't fit logical legal frameworks.
So how did Uncle Karl even find out about this trial? It wasn't directly from the court, was
I
it?
know. No, the source of the news is revealed to be a letter from Erna.
Kay's young cousin.
Right. She writes about going to the bank, being unable to see Kay because he was apparently in a meeting about Herr Kay's trial.
Just like that, out in the open.
Yeah. And she even mentions Kay sending her a big box of chocolates for her name day, which she just remembered. It's a surprisingly mundane detail amidst such, grave circumstances.
It almost feels jarring.
Erna's letter, though, it provides several critical details that truly bring this Kafkaesque world to life. Firstly, it highlights how easily information, even sensitive personal information about an ongoing trial, can just spread through informal channels.
Like gossip.
Almost like gossip, yeah, yet with serious implications. The messenger at the bank casually confirms the trial, calling it a serious one at that, and describing Kay as a very good and just gentleman, but noting his mood suggests things are not going very well.
Wow.
And Erna, despite her apparently simple-minded reassurances to the messenger, clearly feels it's important enough to urge her father, Uncle Karl, to investigate.
And the chocolate.
The detail about the chocolate, which Kay acknowledges he'd forgotten about.
Oh, right.
And which Erna likely invented, probably to avoid getting in hot water with her parents for prying. It also shows a touch of manipulation and the very human desire for self-preservation, even among family members. It suggests that the pressure of Kay's situation is already having these ripple effects.
Kay eventually just confirms it to his uncle. He simply says, "Yes, uncle, it's true."
Screwed up.
And then the truly shocking detail. It's a criminal trial. His uncle is absolutely aghast. He cries, "How can you sit here calmly when you have a criminal trial to deal with?"
Which, from his perspective, is a fair question.
It is, but Kay's response is almost unnervingly placid. "The calmer I am, the better it is for the outcome, don't worry." It's an interesting strategy, if it is a strategy.
Well, this exchange just lays bare the chasm between their perspectives and their priorities. Uncle Karl's concern is deeply rooted in family honor, our good name.
Right, the reputation.
He sees Kay's calm as, and I quote, not the behavior of an innocent man who's been accused and who's still in full command of his faculties.
Ouch.
He fears Kay will be simply deleted and the entire family thoroughly humiliated. He's convinced Kay has lost his clear grasp of things.
So it raises that question again for us, for you listening. Is Kay's calm a sign of his inner strength and conviction? Or is it a dangerous detachment?
Does it blind him to the very real threats he faces in a system that clearly doesn't operate by conventional rules? Uncle Karl certainly thinks it's the latter. He's emphasizing the social, the reputational damage.
It forces us to consider. How would we react if accused of an unknown crime by an unknown court? It's a chilling thought.
It really is.
But isn't there a risk, as his uncle suggests, that Kay's calm is actually a form of denial? That it puts him in greater danger in a system that might interpret it as indifference or maybe even guilt?
Yeah, that's precisely the dilemma Kafka presents, isn't it? In a conventional system, maybe calm suggests innocence. But in a Kafkaesque one, where the rules are fluid and arbitrary.
Who knows how they'll read it?
Exactly. Such a reaction might be misconstrued, or worse, completely ineffective. The problem for Kay is that he doesn't know the rules of the game he's forced to play.
He's flying blind.
Totally. So any strategy, including his calm detachment, is basically a shot in the dark. It just underscores the profound psychological toll of facing an unknown accusation from an invisible authority.
Despite this fundamental disagreement on Kay's attitude, they do agree on one thing.
They need a lawyer.
Right. Seeking legal help. Uncle Karl, after a lot of insistence, eventually gets Kay to agree to visit a lawyer named Hold.
Hold.
Hold is described as an old-school friend with a considerable reputation as defense counsel and as a lawyer for the poor.
Which is interesting in itself.
It is. And Kay isn't exactly thrilled with the idea of going to a lawyer for the poor as a defendant himself. It hints at his own pride, maybe, and perhaps a lingering belief in a conventional legal process that, well, seems increasingly irrelevant.
And Uncle Karl's very clear here. This isn't just about legal expertise. It's about who you know.
The connections.
He explicitly states that Hold is a man with important connections. The narrative really stresses the urgency of the situation, with Uncle Karl practically dragging Kay into a taxi, barraging him with questions about the case the whole way.
For Uncle Karl, it's the social network, isn't it? The ability to pull strings. That's the primary tool for defense in this strange system.
Absolutely. Rather than legal arguments or, proving innocence, this highlights a core insight. In an opaque bureaucracy, influence often trumps justice.
And their arrival at Hold's house is peculiar, to say the least.
It really sets a mood.
It's 8 p.m., a dark house. They encounter a new maid, Leni, at the door, who was initially reluctant to even let them in.
It's a bit strange for a lawyer's office.
Very. Hold is said to be ill, suffering from a heart condition, and the overall atmosphere is described as gloomy. It certainly doesn't feel like a professional, welcoming legal consultation.
No, not at all. But the lawyer's transformation, once he realizes why they're actually there, is quite striking.
What happens?
Hold, who's initially presented as weak, struggling to breathe, he becomes much livelier once he learns case business. The trial is the reason for the visit.
Really?
Yeah. This immediately suggests that his illness might be, well, at least in part, a strategic display, maybe particularly around new visitors. Or perhaps certain topics simply invigorate him, drawing him out of his supposed infirmity.
Huh.
It's a subtle but powerful moment that makes us question the authenticity of his condition and maybe the theatricality of interactions within this whole shadowy system. This kind of calculated performance, it could be a key survival mechanism in a Kafkaesque world.
Okay, so then here's where it gets really interesting. And even more unsettling.
If that's possible.
Right. Holt starts explaining his connections to the courts. He even suggests he learns more while he's ill because, quote, good friends from the court do come to visit me, and he hears this and that.
Name dropping, essentially.
Totally. Then, with this sort of dramatic flourish, he points to a dark corner of the room, revealing an oldish man who had apparently been sitting there completely unnoticed until that exact moment.
Wow, just hiding in the shadows.
Apparently. And this oldish man turns out to be the head of administration.
A big deal, presumably.
A highly influential figure. The lawyer's deference is suddenly crystal clear. He's praising the value of such a visit, especially given how snowed under with work the head of administration supposedly is.
So the implication here is profound, isn't it? The deliberate secrecy, the hierarchy of this court system.
Absolutely.
The fact that this important figure literally hides and then emerges slowly with a certain dignity. It immediately shows how connections and influence, not necessarily justice or legal merit, are paramount in navigating this opaque system.
And Kay, where's Kay in all this?
Kay himself feels completely ignored. He's just an audience for the old men. It's a stark illustration that this is a system built on relationships and hidden power, not due process.
Okay, so while these important men are engrossed in their discussion, there's sudden noise.
What kind of noise?
A sound like breaking china from the hall.
Yeah.
Gives everyone a start. Kay goes to investigate.
Okay.
And there, waiting for him, is Leni, the nurse.
The maid who let them in.
The very same. And she immediately confesses to him, I just threw a plate at the wall to get you to come out.
Get out. Seriously.
Seriously. Pretty direct, wouldn't you say? And remarkably manipulative.
Leni's actions are indeed bold, unconventional, certainly, and immediately personal. She tells Kay he's too intransigent, that no one can resist this court.
And then she gives him advice.
Shocking advice. Her advice is clear. You just have to confess. Confess at the next opportunity.
Just like that. Confess to what?
Exactly. Confess to an unknown crime. And she promises outside help, if he does. This directly contradicts Kay's earlier belief that his calm demeanor is best.
So she's essentially arguing that submission, even to an unproven charge, is the only path to escape.
Pretty much. What's chilling here is that help is framed not as legal defense, but as a transaction for surrender. This is a critical insight. In an irrational system, sometimes the most irrational advice is presented as the only solution.
And Leni has this distinctive physical trait, doesn't she?
Yes, the text makes a point of it. The middle and ring fingers of her right hand are joined almost to the top joint, forming what Kay describes as a pretty claw.
A claw, wow.
And she's strangely proud of it. Almost shows it off. It feels almost symbolic of her unconventional, maybe even predatory nature.
It does. And Leni doesn't stop at just giving unusual advice, right?
Oh, no. She probes Kay's personal life, asks about a lover. She critically examines Kay's photo of Elsa, his current girlfriend.
What does she say about her?
Calls her clumsy and coarse, and questions if Elsa would sacrifice herself for Kay.
Oof. Undermining his relationship.
Completely. Leni then quickly moves to seduce Kay, declaring, now you belong to me.
Oh.
She even offers him a front door key, a symbolic gesture of access and possession, sealing their new, unconventional bond.
So this whole interaction reveals a completely different kind of help available within this world.
Totally different. one rooted in manipulation, intimacy, and personal control, rather than any legal strategy or, moral justice. It's a powerful exploration of how personal relationships become transactional in this distorted legal landscape.
So Kay finally leaves the house, only to be immediately confronted by his uncle,
Who's been waiting outside?
waiting in the pouring rain the entire time,
Yeah.
soaking wet, and absolutely furious.
Cool.
The price of Kay's distraction becomes immediately, painfully clear.
Uncle Karl's outrage is intense and very clear. He accuses Kay of doing terrible damage to your case,
Because he disappeared.
disappearing for hours, as he puts it, with a grubby little tart who is obviously the lawyer's mistress.
Harsh words.
Very. He highlights Kay's abandonment of him, of the lawyer, and most importantly, of the head of administration,
The connection they needed.
whose influence on your case is decisive, especially at this critical early stage. The head of administration, the uncle explains, eventually left. He felt sorry for me without being able to help me.
So the opportunity was lost.
Completely lost. And the lawyer's health, too, apparently worsened due to the stress Kay's absence caused.
Wow.
This scene powerfully demonstrates the social and reputational costs of Kay's choices within this Kafkaesque system. It sharply contrasts his, let's say, personal desires and distractions with the practical political maneuvering his uncle believes is absolutely essential for Kay's survival.
It underscores that every action has external consequences, doesn't it? Especially when you're under the microscope of this omnipresent, albeit invisible, court.
Exactly. You're never really off stage.
So what does this all mean for us? We've seen Kay caught between his own sort of weary detachment,
His uncle's desperate attempts to pull strings through old connections,
the lawyer's shadowy network of influence.
and Leni's shocking advice to simply confess, plus her offer of a very personal kind of help.
It's a world where the personal and the judicial are disturbingly, inextricably intertwined. If you take one thing away from this segment, maybe it's that in a Kafkaesque world, conventional notions of justice and integrity, they just quickly erode under the pressure of these opaque systems.
Yeah, this deep dive into Kay's situation offers a really compelling look at how an individual navigates an intimidating bureaucratic system where the rules are unclear, influence is paramount, and even personal relationships become transactional.
It's deeply unsettling.
And the conflicting advice Kay receives, his own stoicism, Uncle Karl's insistence on networking, Leni's radical idea of confession for favors, it leaves us with this central dilemma about how to act when faced with such an overwhelming and opaque force.
Right.
It also highlights how external pressures and just a lack of clear information can lead individuals to compromise their principles or pursue unconventional, even morally ambiguous paths just for self-preservation.
Which raises an important question for you, our listener, to maybe consider. In a world where systems are often opaque and personal connections or even a strange, unverified confession might seem like the easiest path, how much of your own integrity are you willing to sacrifice to gain an advantage?
That's a tough one.
And what truly defines justice when the path to it is so convoluted and, frankly, morally compromised? It makes you wonder how easily we, too, could fall into similar traps when facing systems we don't fully understand.
And maybe beyond that, consider how many aspects of modern life, from navigating complex government agencies to dealing with huge corporate structures, contain echoes of the Kafkaesque.
You see it everywhere once you look.
You do. So, how do we maintain our sense of self, our principles, when confronted with forces that seem designed to strip them away?
Powerful thoughts for a truly iconic piece of literature. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.